Alright. Welcome, guys. It's good to be back. It's good to be in 2020. It was like, for any of you, like 19 was for me. I was like, I don't celebrate New Year's a lot, but this one I was like, come on, New Year's. Be done with 19. 19 was the year that I keep telling people, and they're like, what was so bad about 19? There was nothing bad about 19. It was like death by 1,000 cuts from you. Just like all the little things that were just annoying kind of added up, and I hated even admitting that it wasn't good because it was just one of those things that you kind of feel like stupid, and other people have these really terrible things happen, or tragic events, and things that I can't even like compare to them yet. There was just this feeling to me of just like, it was just not a year that felt like it was put together, and I think it's because of some of the things that we've even talked about, right? Like where my identity was placed, how I was presenting myself, what I was like focusing my efforts on. And so even, this group has been so helpful for me. And as we kind of look forward, that's what, like Dave was talking about, we, as kind of the leadership group, or just the guys that kind of get together and want to have some influence on what we're talking about for the seasons, we all try to get together and we like to reflect, I think, on our own lives, kind of our own situations, and where we're at to say, what are some things that we feel like we want to be better at, or we would want to hear about, or some things that we want to talk about in our small groups, and we kind of, we create these, these themes for the season. And so for season one, for those who were around, we kind of were focused on relationships, this idea of like how do we get better relationships. You guys are really good at that. And we talked a lot about like some of the attributes of what it looks like to have good, deep relationships with our guys, and with our wives, with our kids, with our coworkers, and that kind of stuff. And then we kind of rolled into season two, and that was more about, okay, we know a little bit about relationships now. Well, how do we look at community? We feel like community is a big part of what we're trying to accomplish here in this group, and what we want to be a part of out kind of in our larger community where we live. And so how do we look at community, and what are some things that build good community, and what are some kind of attributes or characteristics of community that we wanted to explore? And so we kind of focused on that stuff. So I think we've covered a lot of good ground, a lot of good territory, and thought about some good stuff. And so as we were kind of thinking about, well, what do we now want to talk about? Because we want to kind of have it be somewhat of a, seamless flow into the season, and we didn't take a lot of time off, which was great for those that had the ability. Last week we got together for coffee, which was super fun. We kind of talked about even that maybe that's something we do frequently, or with some regularity of just getting together and having fellowship instead of doing a talk, just getting together and maybe bringing some food and getting around the table earlier and having more time to just chat, getting to know one another. That was really cool to do that last week. And so we talked about, okay, what are some things that we thought we've been kind of drilling down on over the last two seasons, and then how do we want to carry that forward into season three? And one of the kind of the themes that we've landed on is this idea of like men of action. We've talked about it. I think we want to be about it. So we wanted to start digging in. How do we look at becoming men of action, and what are some things that hold us back? And so, in classic fashion, with here you go. Kind of the first of the year, when you go into this time of year, it's always a time of, at least for me, of reflection, of looking back and kind of saying like, hey, how was last year? How did that go? Looking at the way things turned out, and then looking forward and saying, how do I want to do things differently? Do I like how it went? Do I want to change some things? And so there's this question that we always ask. It was even if you were here last week in Phil's sermon, he had kind of a similar key and point that he talked about, like, what do you want? And that's kind of that starting point. Like, all right, what do I want? What do I want to do differently this year? How do I want to see things go? And so there's this process where you kind of are thinking through it and reflecting and getting introspective. And a lot of us do resolutions. That's like a classic thing to do. Like, let's have some resolutions. Let's, figure out let's be resolved, right? And those last for me, like they're about 8 days. And so it has been an effective thing. And then sometimes there's goals. Let me set some goals, and we get a little bit more framework around how to accomplish that. And even goals sometimes just become dreams because there's not a lot of meat behind it, there's not motivation behind it pushing it for me, and so goals tend to kind of fall flat for me at least. And habits is one of the things that actually has been helpful for me. I think that's just the way that I'm wired. So habits for me, if I can find a way to build a habit that I want to start, or find a habit that I want to stop, those are the ways, because I'm just a rhythmic person that have to get into the flow of life, and so it helps me to have some of these positive things. And there's a book called Atomic Habits that's a really good book, and it gives you some guidance if that's something that kind of resonates with you. There's some good things about, and it's really focused on identity, because what it talks about is like if we focus on this who before do. We're less focused on what we're trying to do and accomplish, and more focused on like who we want to become. And if we look at who we want to become, what that winds up doing for us is helping us make that a part of our identity, and that's how we identify with the thing. So if you say, I want to be a person of good health, you make choices based on a person of good health. So you don't have to say, like, I'm going to go to the gym 50 times next year, or whatever the goal or the resolution might be. You just say, like, I'm a healthy person, and so I make healthy choices. And so when the choice comes up to go out and, eat an entire pizza by yourself, you might say, like, yeah, I don't do that because I'm a healthy person. That's not a choice I would make as a healthy person, versus like saying, oh, this is just, hey, I'm going to just do my thing. I'm going to check my box. I'm going to check off my task list of how I'm going to get to my goal. So that's one of the things that I've been thinking about and kind of mulling over. And so as I've been considering that, and one of the other things that my wife and I do, that's another kind of popular theme that you may do as well, is we think about a word. We kind of pray about it, and we talk about it, and we use, we do a little bit of like this word salad, like what's some words that come to mind of some things that we think would be like impactful in our lives. And then we try to find a single word that would inform or influence some of those different words that we're thinking about. And so for me, based on 2019 and some of the things that I've done, like my word that I'm kind of settling on is surrender. That's one of the things that I feel like God's driving me towards. One of the things that I feel like is something that's going to help me to be more the man that I want to be moving forward in 2020. But that's a good one. Words are always a good way to, for me and for my wife, kind of like use that to kind of be a central point that we ground ourselves on. It's something that's a simple thing to say, like, hey, this is who I want to be, or this is what I'm kind of thinking about, and letting that kind of be the filter that you're viewing your opportunities for or through. And so as we're thinking about words, sometimes we think back, okay, like how do we decide on who we want to be? We've talked a lot about in here, like this idea of authenticity and identity and that kind of stuff. And so asking this question of how do we want to be remembered, right? I think Justin, maybe you would say, like, sometimes people want to write their eulogy or whatever to say, like, what would people say about me? Like, I heard a guy even say one time, he said, if you have a rope, right, and this rope is the entirety of your life, there's the beginning and there's the end. And as humans, we just don't know where we are in that spectrum. We could be almost near the end, we could be halfway through, we could have a ton of time left. And we don't know exactly where we are on that road. And so if we don't know that, and we want to finish well, then he talks about like this idea of legacy. Like if you're creating a legacy or establishing a legacy, then that's how you'll be remembered. That's what you're going to pass on to your family and to your kids and to the people that you meet and interact with on a day-to-day basis. And so I started thinking about that idea, and I was doing a little bit of research on legacy and this idea of like who do you want to be and how you want to be remembered. And so I started with saying, what does it look like to leave a legacy? But if we really look at it from the front side of this, how do you create that legacy? And so I was kind of asking myself these questions, and I think they're good questions to ask because they're questions that I think help inform and to like unpack a little bit of what comes along with like creating that legacy. Is who do people say that you are? What would people say about me right now? If I asked people, or I came to an untimely end, what would people say right now about my life, about how I am as a father, as a worker, as a husband, right, as a brother, as a friend? What would they say about me? And who would I say that I am if I've done that hard work of looking inside and taking some time to reflect and think about those things? Who do I say that I am? How would I kind of rate myself on some of those same things? And then the third one, who does Christ say that I am? If I really look in the Word on the things that He creates, we're a reflection of God, of His image, and He knows me. He knows who I am. He created me to be the person that I am. So if I use that, I'll just say like, okay, if I take the time and I pray through God, asking Him to help me show me who I am and some of the things that I'm good at, releasing the things that are not part of who I am, and false self, that mask we want to take off. And then looking at kind of those first two, hey, if we look at those first two, and if they're aligned with the third one, right, I think that's where we start to like intersect at that place where we have a legacy, where the person that we believe that we are, the people, the way that people view us, and the way that we believe Christ created us to be, if those things all intersect, that's the beginnings, right, of this legacy. So as I was doing a little bit more research, the other thing I found is like, okay, so you have this legacy, you have this person you want to be, it's about character, right? And there's about this idea of persona. So the persona is like kind of how we show up to the world in our default settings, right? If we're not putting a lot of energy into who we're trying to pretend that we are, how we want to like exactly be in a situation. If we're just who we are, right? Who we are here when we show up at the table and start having conversations, or who we are at home, and just like when we, the day after work. The persona is the character that we fall back on. That's just kind of like the default setting of who we are. And so looking at that piece, we kind of look at how do we handle crisis? How do we handle when things in our life that we like wind up falling back in that setting? So maybe we're doing good, we've established some good habits, we're making progress, we're becoming kind of the person that we're challenging ourselves to be. Then we hit crisis. And that's kind of what shows us, hey, are we actually making progress there, or are we just going to fall right back into our bad habits, into our addictions, into the things that we're trying to get escape from? And so in Matthew, right, if you've been through this, Jesus talking, he says, therefore everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who built his house on the rock. The rain came down, and the streams rose, and the winds blew and beat against the house, yet it did not fall, because it had its foundation on the rock. But everyone who hears these words of mine and does not put them into practice is like a foolish man who built his house on the sand. The rain came down, the streams rose, and the winds blew and beat against the house, and it fell with a great crash. Because that's the easy path, right? That's kind of like what I think is demonstrated here, is just saying, like, there's probably tons of places you can build your house in the sand, but to find that right place of rock, that place that's going to be durable and support what you're building, right? You want to find that place. So he's talking about, hey, I'm giving instructions. I'm leading you towards how to. If you implement the things I'm saying, if you do the things I'm telling you to do, you're building your legacy, your house, on the foundation of rock. And so, how do we know? How do we know what we're building and what we're aiming towards building our foundation on rock or on sand? And so that's one of the things I've been grappling with. That's one of the things I think we just have to ask ourselves. Is like, in those, like, what do we say about our own character, about who we want to be, and have we seen that tested? This whole idea that I'm talking about of my word of surrender, for me, there's been a few things where I thought I was doing that well last year, but as soon as I came into the storm, right, as soon as things got crazy, just like for the guy who built his house, you really see what you're made of. And I realized I was defaulting back to my own desire to control my situation, to control the outcome of what was happening. And it was frustrating for me. It caused me a lot of angst in my situation. So I had to go back and say, am I really surrendering? Am I really doing that thing that I say that I'm doing? And so crisis and kind of that storm is where we see ourselves really test that character that we're trying to create. And so then I was thinking, okay, so that I established my foundation and decide who I want to be, the character that I want to embody. And then there's this idea that I've been like working through about this forging a plan, because if I look back, why was I not successful sometimes in the things that I tried to accomplish last year, what was frustrating me, I can generally point for myself back to the fact I didn't have a really good plan on how I was going to achieve those things or do those things. And so when I was working through this, I was kind of like, hey, create a plan, and it wasn't quite the right word. And I was thinking about it, and forging is a process, right, by which we work steel and metal and make something, but it's an intensive process. It takes time, energy, there's heat involved, there's pounding typically with like a hammer. But it's that forging process is what creates a durable plan. Something that's resilient, it's not going to fall apart at the first sign of stress. And that's what I'm working on right now. Where's my plan to become this person, to do the things that I want to do, to be the dad, in a better way that I'm trying to be? What is my plan to do that? Because if I say, man, I want to have a better relationship with my kids, one of the things I want to work on this year is just like making sure that I'm pouring into my kids. I don't have a plan to do that. Life happens, and I get to the end of the year and I look back and say, how did I engage with my kids? Did I spend time with each and every one of them independently? Did I pray with them at night like I intended to do? And I start off well in January, and then it kind of fades, right? And then if I don't have this plan that I go back to, then it falls apart for me. And so it was interesting. There was a interview that happened with Tony Dungy, and actually most guys know who Tony Dungy is, but he was the head coach for the Indianapolis Colts for a long time. Really good guy, Christ-centered guy, has kind of a foundation now of how he kind of speaks to men and does some stuff. Kind of leverages his experience in football and tries to kind of create parallels for that in life and men. And one of the things that he says in this like interview, it's called becoming a man with a plan. He says, we do things in our lives that we would have dreamed of doing on the football field. We go in unprepared, without reading the game plan, totally unprotected, without the right equipment, and we wing it, hoping it works out. And I think it's perfect. It's a perfect analogy of truly how we sometimes approach life. And yet, if you looked at somebody who did that, and it's as if a football player walked out in the field in his pajamas, and he hadn't read the game plan, and he expects to win, you would think he was an idiot. You'd be like, what's going on, right? You see a guy go out there, has read the game plan, he's watched the film, he's got the right equipment on, he knows his team, he knows the plays, and that's how he expects to have victory in the game. That's how he expects to be successful in what he's trying to accomplish. And so if we don't have this plan in place, we shouldn't expect it. We should expect it. Because otherwise, we're just drifting into the outcome that we're hoping for. We're not actually being a part of the, the intentional outcome that we're looking for. So then, we create this plan. And then we have to become action-oriented. So you have to execute. And that's an area where a lot of us, that's where the rubber meets the road for all of us, right? I got my foundation, I'm building my plan, I know where I'm going, and then we just fail in execution. Because sometimes the plan is too grand, or it's too complex, or it's too specific. It could be any number of reasons. But I think there's a lot of things that just hold us back from becoming action-oriented. I'm just saying, I'm just gonna move forward. I'm not gonna let myself be lazy or be apathetic or be fearful, or the things that hold us back in being action-oriented. And that's one of the questions I think we need to talk about and kind of drill down into today. This is going to be one of the things I want to talk about. What holds us back from the things that we desire to do? Because I believe everybody sitting here has a desire to do good things, to be better in their life, to achieve more this year. But I don't know if we all will. And what helps us to be action oriented? And that's one of the things that we want to talk about: becoming men of action. If you've spent any amount of time around church, you probably have heard the story of Peter walking on the water. It's one of the most famous stories. It's one of the most miraculous feats. It had never been done before he did it. It had never been done after he did it. And so the story kind of goes like this. Early in the morning, he came walking to them on the sea. But when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were terrified, saying, "It's a ghost." And they cried out in fear. But immediately Jesus spoke to them and said, "Take heart, it is I. Do not be afraid." Peter answered him, "Lord, if it is you, command me to come out on the water." He said, "Come." So Peter got out of the boat and started walking on the water and came towards Jesus. But when he noticed the strong wind, he became frightened and began to sink. He cried out to the Lord, "Save me." Jesus immediately reached out his hand and caught him, saying to him, "You of little faith, why did you doubt?" When they got back to the boat, the wind ceased, and those in the boat worshipped him, saying, "Truly you are the Son of God." And so this passage is kind of the basis for this book. And this book is one of the things that we want to use to help guide our conversation and our discussion, much like we used to Tribe, Sebastian Younger, last season. And the idea of this boat is kind of inherent to style, right? If you want to walk on water, you got to get out of the boat. And this is something that was recommended. I think you've heard. I'll give you credit because you brought this up. And I think it's going to be a great tool for us to kind of use to help guide our conversation, like I was saying. But it's this idea of we have potential, but there's risk involved in following the call. There's risk involved, and there's failure that's probable or possible in it. But if we want to pursue this this deep change and this growth in our character, we have to be able to trust in God. We have to be able to get out of the boat and take the step towards Him. And I think the thing that's so profound about when you look back, right? He first is he wants to just do it. He says, "If it's you, tell me to come to you." He believes that He can. He doesn't even question it. There's nobody that's ever walked on water before. He's not that'll be fine. It's not gone, knee-deep water. Just call me and I'll just crash through the water. He asks, "Hey, tell me to come to you and I will." But it's when he's out there and he starts to take awareness about what he's gotten himself into. The wind's crashing, kind of leading in as far as they're in a. The way that I used to sometimes visualize it was still. He's walking on the water on the top of it. It was wind and waves. And so I think we're going to learn a lot from Peter, as we explore this. And so that's what we're going to be focusing on throughout this season. And for those of you who have already been courageous and got up here and spoke. I applaud you. I thank you, and I hope you guys do so again. And for those that haven't, if this is something that inspires you, if it's a topic that you feel passionate about, or something you've got to share, I would love to talk to you guys. And JD, doing all of us kind of do this. We'd love to just hear what you have to share on this. Because here's the things we're going to explore. And just some of it. There's this process that Peter goes through as he decides on whether or not he's going to get out of the boat. It's the same process that we have to go through when we encounter similar challenges. First, we have to discern God's call. We have to hear Him call us forward. We have to know where we're being called into and what we're being called to do. And once we've done that, we have to make a choice. And that's what Peter had the choice. He could say, okay, you called me now. I either have to go or I have to let myself just stay in the boat because that's a safe place to be. And so we have to transcend fear in making that choice because he's doing something that has never been done before, that didn't seem to make sense to anybody. And then, because I don't even know, what did the other disciples think? Like, if I was them, I probably would have been like, he's going to get out and swim for Jesus. Right? Like, that would be the natural thought. It's like, okay, it's still scary, it's still stormy, like, but he's going to go swim to Jesus. He wants to go swim to him, and he gets out and walks on the water. And once we transcend fear, this is the thing I think is really interesting. We have to risk faith. Because when we make a big bet on something, and we believe and have hope that Christ is going to show up and be there with us in it, if he doesn't show up, then it challenges our faith. Like, was I not faithful enough? Am I faithful on the right thing? Should I not have done the thing I did? And so we put our faith at risk and we're vulnerable there when we make those big bets and we really pursue Christ in a new way. And then we have to manage failure, right? He has to process that after he gets back in the boat. And that, like moment when Jesus says, "You have little faith, why did you doubt?" He has to be back and like, that's why did I? I had the courage and the belief to get out of the boat and start the process, and yet, like, as soon as I saw the waves, I doubted whether or not I could make it too. So you have to be able to manage the failure when we have those experiences and they don't turn out the way that we would expect. And then we have to just trust in God. I think that's the thing that I struggle with all the time, and I'm always wanting to get better at it. It's hard to do. We live in a world that doesn't make sense, where things don't turn out the way that we want. Things that people get hurt and there's tragedy that occurs. And so when a situation comes up for us, right, we get a family member that's diagnosed with cancer or somebody that's battling addiction, we'll pray and ask God to fix it, but we don't know what's going to, because He doesn't do it for everybody. So we have to trust, like, that God has the best interest at heart, and we're going to dig in all that stuff. So that is kind of a look at where we're going for this season. So I've got a couple of questions. How are you entering in 2020? Do you have any pursuits, any goals, resolutions, habits that you want to start with? Do you have a plan to support those pursuits? Do you have, how are you gonna do those things? That process. And then what typically holds you back from that plan, or execute on that plan? That's it.